Welcome to today's Nicaragua webinar entitled The Nicaraguan Community Policing Model. I will now repeat this in Spanish. Saludos a todas y todos. Bienvenidos al webinar de Nicaragua de hoy, titulado El Modelo Nicaragüense de Policía Comunitaria. Before we start, let's make sure everyone can access interpretation if you need it. Please look at the bottom of your screen and find the interpretation button. Click on interpretation and then select the language you want to hear. Okay, I will repeat that in Spanish also. Antes de empezar, vamos a asegurarnos de que todo el mundo puede acceder a la interpretación si la necesita. Busque en la parte inferior de la pantalla el botón Interpretación. Haga clic en Interpretación y seleccione el idioma que desea escuchar. Starting now, I'll speak only in English with gratitude to our two interpreters, Jill Clark-Golub and Camilo Mejia. We are also grateful to Yoav Elenevsky, who is providing our technical support, and we thank our many organizational co-sponsors who are being listed now in the chat. My name is Barbara Larkham, and I'll serve as moderator today along with Nan McCurdy, the co-organizer of this webinar series. Today, we are very pleased to hear from two Nicaraguan police officials, Commissioners General Jaime Vanegas and Marta Ligia Solorzano, whom I will introduce at greater length in a few minutes. Please note that the second speaker is a change from our earlier publicity. Before we begin, we have a few requests and announcements. You'll see several buttons available at the bottom of your screen. One button is for closed captions. Just click it to turn it on if you wish. Also, feel free to use the chat function to offer comments throughout this event. But if you have a question for the speakers, please don't put your question in the chat or we may not see it. Instead, click the Q&A button and place your question there. After we've heard from both speakers, we'll have a question and answer period, and we'll select questions from the Q&A. If you would like to become more active in supporting Nicaragua's sovereignty and opposing foreign interference in the country, please join the International Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. You can check the website regularly at nicasolidarity.net. Also, please put your name and email address in the Q&A if you would like to receive action alerts, the weekly newsletter, and monthly meeting notices. The next meeting of the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition is on Monday, October 9th. There is also a campaign getting underway to oppose coercive measures known as sanctions against Nicaragua and some other countries in the Americas. To learn more about this campaign, please put your name and email address in the Q&A for this too. And I would ask people, if there are people who are, if you are not muted, please mute yourselves at this time because we are hearing a lot of background noise. Thank you. To save as much time as possible for this program, we'll enter some other information in the chat about other ways you can get involved or learn more about Nicaragua. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to all registrants within the next few days. When it's ready, it will also be posted at nicasolidarity.net and on the YouTube channel of Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. And now we turn to our invited speakers. Commissioner General Jaime Antonio Vanegas Vega has been serving as the Inspector General of the National Police for the past 6 years. He is Nicaraguan and holds a degree in law. He has 38 years of service in different specialties within the police institution. Before becoming the Inspector General, he served 5 years in criminal investigation, 6 years in public security, 3 years in transit security, and 17 years as legal counsel. Commissioner General Marta Ligia Solorzano Suarez has served for the past 5 years as chief of the Departmental Police Delegation of Huaco. She is a Nicaraguan who holds degrees in law and business administration. During her 42 years of service in the National Police, she has also served as chief of the Women's Police Station in the Department of Chontales for more than 10 years and deputy delegation chief of Central Celaya for over 3 years. Commissioners General, welcome to you both. We look forward to your presentations now. Welcome.
Very well, and a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. I do see that we have a large number of people online. I see 67. And first of all, I wish to communicate to each and every one of you greetings from our Commander Daniel Ortega Saavedra, the President of the Republic of Nicaragua, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Nicaraguan Police, and also our Vice President, compañera Rosario Murillo Zambrana. So a warm embrace from our Director General of the National Police of Nicaragua, First Commissioner Francisco Javier Diaz Madriz. And we also thank you for the opportunity to share with you very briefly what our experience has been on the 3 topics that we have selected. I say very briefly because these 3 subject areas are quite rich, and 15 minutes for each topic is not really enough time to go into all of the rich details of the experience that the Nicaraguan police have had in those areas. Thank you very much. I give the floor to my colleague. Thank you, and a very good afternoon to all of the compañeros and compañeras who are watching us in this webinar. We are very grateful, and I am grateful to be with Commissioner General Solórzano, and I'm Commissioner Solórzano, and I'd like to talk to you about what we want to do. As Commissioner General Vanegas said, we have a very rich experience and a wealth of information, and we hope we will meet your expectations by communicating to you what we've come to talk about today. And thank you very much. Very well, if we may, we would like to get started with our first topic, which is the Nicaraguan policing model. And I'm going to set my timer here so that I don't go beyond the 15 minutes that have been allotted for this. So, you're about to see on screen our presentation, the police model to protect individuals, families, and communities. This is a very important model. This model was created in 1979, right after the triumph of the Sandinista People's Revolution. And a new police force was born, quite different from the National Guard under Somoza, which was repressing our population and murdering young Nicaraguan men and women. So this National Police was founded on September 5, 1979, and we just had our 44th anniversary, and we came out of our community, out of our people. So over these 44 years, we have remained united with our community, and our main mission is to contribute to peaceful coexistence citizen safety. And this is really what permeates all of the work of our police on a national scale and in our interactions with all of the stakeholders in our society. And obviously, we see our individuals, families, and communities in Nicaragua as the leaders of this process. And we still hold dear these revolutionary values that were forged in the fight against Somoza, that repressed the Nicaraguan people for over 45 years. Our police force was founded based on humanist, revolutionary values. The first members of the police force, which at that time was called the Sandinista police, in honor of the general of free men and women, Augusto C. Sandino. Most of the members at that time were guerrillas. Now, we still have 54 original founders of the National Police in amongst our ranks, including our Director General, who was a guerrilla fighter in the struggle against Somoza, both the Nicaraguan jungle and in urban areas. So this is not a new model. It was developed in the 1980s, and then the second stage of the revolution, starting in 2007, we, with the national government for unity and reconciliation, relaunch this, and countries have come to Nicaragua to learn about the Nicaraguan policing model so that we could share our experience at the international level. This is not a static model. It is continuously under evolution and experiencing adjustments in order to improve us as an institution and to get ever closer to the community to which we offer our police services. Logically, our model is complemented by the strategy of our good government, which establishes that we should link together all efforts of our Nicaraguan society to be able to have a systemic and inclusive approach for the individuals, families, and communities of Nicaragua who are in charge of this system. This is why we always say that our national police work with the community, from the community, and our main mission is to protect life and the physical integrity of Nicaraguan peoples and families, because that is the priority of our good government, and this is what we work on.
Probablemente en este momento no los puedan ver, no los puedan ver a nivel internacional porque
we can't see it at international level because all of the fora at the international level. But one thing that's very important is that in Nicaragua, we do not have the maras problems. The crime rates, it's 7 homicides per each 100,000 citizens. We have successfully fought against drug trafficking. The highest danger crimes have diminished. We don't have traffic drug cartels landing in Nicaragua. We don't have traffic drug sales in Nicaragua. We are guaranteeing higher level of security for our communities and defending the peace that characterizes Nicaragua, which we share with other countries because there is a center that we have here, a Russian center to train police officers. We get police officers from Guatemala, Peru, Paraguay, Ecuador, Cuba, to study with us and to learn our national reality in such a way that it is not what they're saying internationally about us. It's not true. When people come here, they are really surprised by our model. Our model is constitutional. It's part of our political constitution, and this political constitution is being reformed since January of next year, where we will establish again respect, protection to people, communities, and families in Nicaragua. This is part of our model. We have a normative fundamental, which is a national strategy for security for citizenships and all humans, which you can see in the programs and plans that we have been developing, which is part of a strategy of our government, of our state, which involves all institutions of our good government, of the Nicaraguan state, and of course, of the national police, which accompanies our people, our families in Nicaragua. To such a degree that on this year, we are having community meetings in the neighborhoods, in the towns, in the markets, at bus stops. These convenings are precisely to know from themselves the needs of security of our people. Immediately, we take the opportunity to provide recommendations to evaluate and improve the services that we are offering. Very important how our community trusts this police, works with our community, our police meets with our community, which culminate on November 8 with a national convening about national and human security, which will be honoring Carlos Fonseca Amador, the father of our revolution. We have public safety plans consisting of police presence in every space, in everything you can imagine, everywhere you can imagine, day-to-day activities of our population. That's where we are. And we have a special plan of security, tourist destinations for national and international tourists, people coming from other countries. We have a national plan for security, traffic security that we have. Is one of the issues that we have. Right now, we have a security plan for motor taxis. We have rural security plan. We have a school security plan, which, by the way, includes the meal program that we have, that we offer without distinction to all schools, to all students in primary and secondary school. They receive a meal at the school, and all of the teachers in our school are guaranteed to receive their packets as well in coordination with the Ministry of Education. We also have special plans to regulate our transit around our schools, and we have plans so that our students can go to school and return home with safety. Amongst other plans that we have is to restore the rights of our community by reestablishing more than 14,000 public lights in our houses, in our roads, so that our youth can play and rest with more security in our parks and the public transit. This police model develops national security plans for citizens and humans, also for our mothers and our women, which our commissioner here will speak about, a special plan for our youth to integrate them. It's called My Life Without Drugs. It is a campaign of Women for Life to prevent feminicide. And our national police, it's not only working with community directly, house to house, neighborhood meetings, meetings with community leaders, permanently with everyone, but also we accompany other institutions of our good government, the Ministry of Health and vaccine campaigns, and health and coup campaigns, fighting malaria, in the census, and all activities of the ministries of education, health, women, youth, sports, the all municipal governments. We are there accompanying the Human Rights Procurement Office, the Women Procurement Office, and all of the institutions of our government. And we continue identifying risks, crimes, and we execute regular and special plans to guarantee the peace and tranquility. By the way, I would like to refer to or let you know that this is not a job that's exclusive of the police, but it's part of the policies, the plans, and strategy of our good government, which has allowed us to fulfill our mission, which you can see in our screen, and our vision, which has allowed us leadership at the regional level, and specifically in the Central American region. What are the principal fundamentals of this model? We have gender equity, solidarity, and spirit of corps. What is our strategy? Three main strategies: citizen participation, institutions of our good government, and preventive actions and intelligence actions of our police to improve the security of our citizens. This model is based on three principles: systemic work, articulation of three subsystems of work, and the sector, which is the base of our national police, with 11 methods to work, which have been very efficient in these 44 years. Here are the components: share responsibility, rights restitution, and three elements: police prevention, state prevention. This includes three areas of the police: preventive, the fourth is preventive as well, and the three types of elements that are linked to our work system: the sector, which I mentioned, the special models, which our compañera comisionada is going to speak about, and the treatment of youth, the education model, which is very important to conserve and promote our values. And this model has allowed us to get closer to community with emergency services, a system to receive complaints through emergency numbers, through our website, technology kiosks, as you can see there. And these are the services that we offer. We have practically 7 homicides per 100,000 citizens. Here we can see from 2007 through 2022, which we ended with 7 homicides, the lowest index in the region. And this year, it's possible for us to get to 6 homicides per each 100,000 people. These are the graphics that show the trust in the police model, because we have in every delegation, every municipality, in every department of the country, here are the misdemeanors and crimes. You can see the statistics that the vast majority of the accusations that we receive are of low risk. The high risk only constitute 3%. Imagine, and these are issues, interpersonal families. Look at how we have been able to sustain a diminution tendency, and we see how we have lower robberies per 100,000 inhabitants from 2007 to 2022. Here we have it by square meters, and you see that by each complaint, you see that our police force is the smallest in Central America, but the results are very satisfactory. And you can see per each 100,000 people, we have 255, which is the lowest in the region. Here, I conclude my presentation. I went over by 30 seconds. My apologies. Right now, Comisionada General, General Commissioner Marta Ligia Solórzano will now present, Suarez will now present.
¿Qué tengo que hacer aquí?
What do I have to do here?
Sí. Correcto. En un segundito.
In one little second.
Comienza
Buenas tardes
Good afternoon,
a compañeros y compañeras.
compañeros and
El día de hoy
compañeras.
vamos a
Today, we're
conversar
going to talk
sobre las medidas y acciones
about
tomadas
the
por la
actions and
Policía
measures
Nacional
taken by
para
national
proteger
police to
a
protect
las mujeres de
women
la violencia.
from
En este
violence.
aspecto, ¿verdad? Yo no
In
puedo
this aspect,
aislarme con
I
relación
cannot
a nuestro modelo
isolate myself
policial,
from our police model
dado de que nuestro modelo
because our
policial,
police model
¿verdad? Es un modelo
is a model
revolucionario,
that is
es un
revolutionary.
modelo
It
más
is
social que policial,
more
y
social
estas acciones y
than police
estrategias
model.
para proteger
And the
a las
solutions and
mujeres
strategies
de
to
la
protect women
violencia
from
tiene
violence
que ver con nuestro
has to
modelo
do with
de policía.
our
Y
police
está
model,
dirigida
and it is directed
básicamente a
basically
dar una respuesta a
to
este
provide
sector de la
answers
población
to this sector of the
nicaragüense
population in Nicaragua,
donde las
where
mujeres,
women,
las compañeras mujeres
which
representamos
where
el 51%
women represent
de nuestro
51%
país.
of our country.
¿Desde qué enfoque nosotros lo
From
trabajamos?
what,
¿Verdad? Lo
how do
trabajamos
we
desde un enfoque de
work this
prevención desde la
from an
familia.
angle
Lo
of
decía el
family prevention?
comisionado general Vanega, ¿verdad?
As
Nuestro modelo
General
está
Commissioner Vanega
basado
said, our
desde la
model is
familia.
based
Y como una
on the
política
family,
de nuestro
and as a
buen
policy
gobierno
of
de
our good
unidad y
government,
reconciliación
of unity and
nacional,
reconciliation,
tenemos que
we have
es
to,
para contribuir a la
this
transformación de
contributes
las
to the
relaciones
transformation
de
of the
igualdad y
relationships
equidad entre
in
hombres y
equity
mujeres.
and
Pero además
equality
de
between
eso,
men and
también
women.
tenemos
Besides
que
that, we
el
also have
enfoque nosotros que trabajamos está basado
to
en el
focus
respeto
on
a los derechos
respect
humanos
to
y
human
de
rights
igual manera lo
in the same
trabajamos
way
desde un
we
enfoque
work at it
integral.
from an integral focus.
La planificación de la
The
Policía
planning
Nacional
of
en
national police in
Nicaragua
Nicaragua
está basada
is
o
based,
su guía lógica está
or
basada
its
en los
logic
lineamientos
guide
del Plan Nacional de
aligns with a
lucha contra la
national
pobreza y
plan
para
to
el
fight
desarrollo
against
humano
poverty and for
del
human
año
development
2022 al
from the
2026.
year
En este
2022 to
lineamiento
2026
que es
in this alignment,
transversal,
which is
porque todos los
transversal
lineamientos tienen
because
que ver con
all
la
alignments have
familia,
to do with
tienen que ver
families,
para darle respuesta a la
to
familia.
provide
El
answers to
lineamiento número
families.
5 se refiere
The
también
number
a la igualdad
5
de los géneros,
talks
que es
about
más
gender
el
equity,
protagonismo
which
que
means
tienen que
the
ver todas
protagonists
las compañeras mujeres.
of all
La
women
Policía
compañeras. The
Nacional,
national
cumpliendo
police,
también, ¿verdad?, con una
also
estrategia y
fulfilling a
acciones de nuestro buen
strategy of
gobierno,
actions by our good
ha
government,
creado
has
crea
created
las comisarías de la mujer para
women police
atender
stations
los casos
to
de
deal
violencia
with
contra nuestras
violent
mujeres.
cases
A
against
nivel
our women.
nacional,
On
nosotros
the national
tenemos
level, we have
253 comisarías
253
a lo largo y ancho
police
de los
stations throughout
153
the
municipios de nuestro país,
153
donde podemos
municipalities of our
decir
country,
de
where we
que
can
cada uno
say
de los
that
municipios
each one of our
tiene
municipalities
uno
has one or
o
two
dos comisarías de la mujer
women police stations
para la
to
atención directa,
for the
pero
direct treatment,
principalmente
but
para darle
especially
respuesta,
to provide
atender
answers
la
to
recepción
treat
de las
the
denuncias que
reception
pueden
of
presentar o
the
que presentan
complaints that are
nuestras
being
compañeras
presented
mujeres que
by
están
our
siendo víctimas de
compañeras,
violencia.
our women
En esta
compañeras who are the
comisaría de
victims
la
of violence.
mujer
In this
van a
women police
encontrar,
stations, you're going to
encuentran
find
nuestras compañeras mujeres
our
la
women
respuesta
compañeras find
de mano
answers
desde la jefa de la comisaría,
by the
que es una
chief of
mujer,
police, who's a
compañeras
woman,
investigadoras de la comisaría de la mujer, que
inspectors of
también
the
son
women's
mujeres,
stations who are
el
also women.
100% de la
100%
atención
of the
son de
attention is
compañeras
provided
mujeres.
by
Y la
women
persona,
compañeras,
las
and
víctimas, las
the
mujeres
victims, the
víctimas de
women who are
violencia,
victims of violence,
encuentran la
find
atención de
the
inmediato
immediate
con la
attention
recepción de la denuncia y
to
inicia todo
their
un proceso de
complaints, and this
investigación
initiates a
hasta
whole
llevar
process
su
of
caso
investigation
a las autoridades judiciales o a las
until it brings
autoridades
the case
competentes.
to
En
the
esta
competent
parte
authorities
de
or
la
judicial
denuncia,
authorities.
donde nosotros
In this part
trabajamos
of
una ruta, ¿verdad? Y
the
es
complaints,
una
we have
atención
this
integral.
roadmap to
Aquí
provide
hay varias
integral
instituciones
attention.
que tienen que ver
We have
en
several
conjunto
institutions
con
which
nosotros,
together
porque
work with
no
us
estamos solos como
because we're not
Policía
alone
Nacional
as a
para
national
darle esa
police
respuesta
to provide this
contundente a
answer,
nuestras
this robust
compañeras
answer
mujeres.
to our
Estamos
women compañeras.
trabajando
We
de
are
manera
working
directa con el Instituto de
directly
Medicina Legal,
with
que es
Legal
donde se
Medicine
hacen
Institute,
las valoraciones tanto
which
psíquicas como
evaluates
también de una
psychological
manera que esté el médico forense, ¿verdad? Para
evaluations,
la
but then
atención de
also with a
cualquier
forensic doctor
agresión
to be
física
able
que
to investigate
se
any
pueda presentar. De
physical
igual manera,
aggression.
está el Ministerio
Also,
Público
we have the
que
public,
una vez que
the
conoce de
Ministry of
este
the
caso,
Public,
de
which
igual
knows
manera
of this case,
participa, ¿verdad?
also will
Para hacer
participate in
también
order
una
to also
entrevista, una guía de
interview
entrevista única para
or
no
provide a series
revictimizar
of
a la víctima. Y ellas
unique
hacen
interviews to
la
not victimize the
acusación
victims.
para ser remitida a
And
la
this
autoridad
accusation
competente, que son
is
los jueces
remitted
de
to the proper
familia, que son los
authority,
jueces de
which are the
violencia,
family
que conocen
judges,
los
the
casos
violence
también.
judges.
Pero además de eso,
In
participan
addition to this,
instituciones de nuestro buen gobierno, como el
institutions of
Ministerio
our
de
government
Salud, que tiene
participate,
que
such
ver
as the Ministry
para
of
la
Health,
atención integral de las
and this
mujeres
has to
víctimas o de
do
las
with the
compañeras mujeres
comprehensive
al
care for the
momento de
victims, for
requerir
the
de
women,
una atención segunda
should they need
en el
some
momento de su
secondary
primera
care
intervención. De igual
after their
manera, el
initial
Ministerio de
encounter with the
Educación,
police.
que
Also, the Ministry
también
of
nos presentan
Education
a través
becomes
de las
involved,
consejerías
and
escolares,
through the
puede ser
school
alguna
counselor
denuncia de
officers
delitos sexuales
may
en niños y
file a
niñas, ¿verdad?
complaint
Entonces, todo
regarding
este
sexual abuse
engranaje
of
que
boys
nosotros
and girls.
tenemos dentro
So
de las
this
comisarías
is
de la
what we
mujer
have set up
están
within the
siendo,
women's
como
police
dije, atendidas por
stations,
cada una, por
and
las
these
jefas de
are covered
comisaría y por las
by the
investigadoras
chiefs of the
que
police
tienen un
station.
plan de
And
capacitación
we
continua
also
para
have
dar
a
una mejor
continuing
atención con calidad y
education
calidez humana. De igual
program
manera,
to
nosotros trabajamos
continue to
la
improve our
parte social,
services
como
with
bien lo decía el comisionado
humane
general, y lo digo
treatment.
yo
And as I said
al
before, as
inicio,
the commissioner
que
said,
nuestro modelo
our
es social,
model
es
is
primeramente social,
more geared
¿verdad?
towards social
Y estamos
services.
enfocados en la visita a
And we
casa a casa.
focus on
Este año
house to
llevamos más
house
de
visits.
200,
This year, we have carried out more than
210.954 visitas
210,000
casa a casa,
house to
que
house
no
visits.
solamente es la
And
visita,
it's
es
not
llegar,
just a
no,
matter of
es
knocking on a door, it's
transportarnos, como
also
dicen, para hacer
moving
esa
ourselves
relación
into the community
policía-comunidad
to
y esa
establish that
relación
relationship between the police and the community and
familia-policía-comunidad,
relationship
pero
between
además
families,
de eso
the police and
participa
the
todo el
community,
tendido
but
territorial,
also all
participan
of
nuestros bomberos
our
unidos
fabric
en esta
of
visita casa a casa, como
public
también de manera
services,
directa,
including
en
even the
presencia
fire
directa,
department, go, and
nuestros
we have a
ministros,
direct
nuestras
presence. So our
ministras, haciendo
ministers
esa
are
visita
all
casa
involved
a
in
casa con
these
nuestra
house-to-house
familia.
visits, getting
Importante
to know
decir
our families. It's
que
also
nos
important to
reunimos con
say
las
that
madres de
we meet with
familia
the
también, ¿verdad?
mothers
En esta
in
visita
each
casa a
household.
casa,
In these
nosotros
house-to-house
conocemos
visits,
más allá,
we
porque
become
puede
more
ser de que
familiar with
alguna
the
víctima no se ha
family because
presentado a
there may
interponer
be a victim
denuncia,
who has
pero
not come to
conocimos
file a
de una
complaint,
denuncia en
but
ese
we may
momento y le damos
learn
respuesta.
about
Conocemos
any
factores de
complaints at
riesgo,
that point in
conocemos
time. And
alertas
we
tempranas
become
y
aware
la
of risk
respuesta que
factors
nosotros vamos
and
a dar
early
en ese
warnings,
momento, ¿verdad?
and we are ready to
Con
respond
nuestras
with
instituciones, con
our
nuestras buenas
institutions,
instituciones de nuestro buen gobierno.
the
Entonces, esta
institutions of our
visita
good
casa a
government.
casa
So these
también les
house-to-house
informamos,
visits,
porque tenemos, y lo vamos a ver más adelante,
and we're
las
going to see this a
cartillas,
little bit
pero
later,
le
we have
acercamos el servicio a la
pamphlets, but
comunidad,
we
dándoles
bring
a
our
conocer
service
nuestra
out
línea
into the
gratuita
community, letting
a la
people know
población,
about
como es el
the
118
free
en la Policía
services we
Nacional
have,
y el
such as
133 del Ministerio de la Familia,
118
para
to
que de
the
inmediato
police
se
and also
comuniquen
the
por
Ministry
cualquier
of the Family,
situación,
so that
se le da
people
el
can call
acompañamiento y
these
el
hotlines to
asesoramiento
get
que se
whatever
puede
support
presentar
and
en ese
advisory
momento. De
services they
igual
may need
manera,
at
en
that
la parte
point in time.
social,
The same is true in terms of
también
social
tenemos las
services.
campañas de
We
difusión y
also have
sensibilización
awareness
referente a la
campaigns
violencia
regarding
contra la mujer.
violence
Entonces
against
nosotros
women.
tenemos, ¿verdad?
So
Nuestra
we
estrategia, nuestras
have our
acciones están
strategy
encaminadas
and
y
our
se los damos a conocer
actions,
a través de
which are
asambleas, a
aimed at
través
doing
de
this. And we
charlas, a
do this
través de
through
foros,
having
a través
assemblies, talks,
de toda aquella
forums,
parte donde
all
nos
kinds of
podamos
activities
reunir
in which we
y
can come
podamos
together with
conversar
people in the
y
community,
podamos
have conversations,
aclarar, ¿verdad?
and
Y a la par de eso, pues
clarify
dar la debida
things for
atención.
people and
Importante
offer the
aquí
attention that
es
is
señalar
needed.
las
We
ferias
also want to
educativas.
let you know
Las ferias
about the
educativas
educational fairs that
donde,
we
que
offer. These
además de
are
ser ferias
opportunities where, in
educativas,
addition to
nuestras
being
compañeras
educational,
mujeres son
our women
protagonistas y llegan a
are
dar a
in
conocer todo el trabajo que
charge
están
and
haciendo,
tell
porque
everybody about
están
all of the
trabajando
work that they are doing. They
todo lo
They let us know what they are putting together, because through INATEC, the technical agency, and various institutions, training is provided so that women can resolve their problems and serve as guides for their families. At the educational fairs, many women show up and offer their products that they like to sell, and also people from the offices of the government explain what they have to offer. So we do this together with the police and the women's police stations. So we also are in charge of enforcing the law, obviously, to protect the life and physical integrity of Nicaraguan women. Our women's police stations listen to and accompany women on the path to justice. We are under continuing education, not only for the women's police stations, but all of the police. Commissioner General Vanegas told you that we have ongoing training. In addition to this, we work through the sector chiefs and through youth affairs. We are always providing services to eliminate violence against women. We also have ongoing campaigns under a model of popular education. To this end, our good government has worked together with the National Interinstitutional Commission, which includes the National Police. And we have 24 pamphlets. All of these pamphlets are a citizen's guide to explain how we as individuals, families, and communities can work together to live a healthy life in peace and with calm. And so we have a pamphlet on women, dignity, and rights. And we have families. You can see it here if you can see my screen. And we have one on families, hope, safety, and peace, and loving care for children, families safe at home, women, dignity, and rights. So these are just some of the pamphlets that the police share. So we have a direct presence. Our minister and the National Police explain all of these services up and down Nicaragua. So we see that the women's police station, as part of the National Commission for Life with Harmony, have strengthened comprehensive and humane care for women who are experiencing situations of violence. I would also like to tell you that for 2023, we have just had 13 cases of femicide. The facts in these cases have been investigated, and those responsible for the crimes have been surrendered to the public prosecutor's office. And we also have bench warrants out, and we apply all of the specialties of the National Police in order to carry out this plan against aggressors. And we can tell you that the sex of these actions and strategies in terms of preventing violence against women is thanks to the political will and commitment of our good government. It's Christian socialist solidarity model. The National Police is implementing this strategy for individuals, families, and communities, and every member of our institution takes on this task with dedication and commitment for the families of Nicaragua. Thank you for your attention.
Excuse me, Commissioner, before you begin, we have had a request that you speak a little more slowly, please. Some people in the audience were requesting that. Thank you.
Claro.
Yes, of course.
Sí, claro. Bien,
Very well.
antes de iniciar, quería
Before I
agregar
resume, I
algunos
would just like to
elementos muy
add a
importantes
few very
de
important
la presentación que hizo nuestra
elements to the
comisionada general.
presentation offered
Aquí
by
es muy
Commissioner
importante
General
decir
Marta
que
Ligia
más del
Solórzano.
30%
Here we see more than
del personal de
30%
nuestra
of
Policía
the
Nacional
staff in the
es
National
femenino.
Police is
Y
women.
hacer
And
referencia
I also
a
wanted
las
to point out
cojefaturas
that we
de
have
nuestra Policía Nacional
our
en cada municipio, en
police
cada
has
departamento, en cada
co-chiefs
región,
in
en
each
cada distrito.
municipality, region,
Hay una
district.
cojefatura,
We
un
have
jefe varón y
joint
una
chiefs,
jefa
a
mujer.
male and a
Esto va a
female
permitir
chief.
atender con
This
mayor
makes it
sensibilidad
possible
a
to
nuestra
have more
población. Muy
sensitive care for
importante
our
también
population.
decir
It's also very
que
important to
la
say
visita casa a casa
that the
se
house-to-house
constituye para
visits
brindar
are done in order
recomendaciones,
to
para hacer
offer
convivencia,
recommendations
para
to
enseñar
foster
una
social
cultura de
harmony
resolución
and
pacífica de
a
conflictos
culture
internos
of
a lo
peaceful
interior de la
resolution
familia
of
y
disputes within the family,
el
and
entendimiento
also to
como la
foster
mejor manera de
understanding as
resolver
the best way
nuestras
to
diferencias.
resolve our
¿Ve?
differences.
Entonces, muy importante que
So it
este
is
no es un
very
modelo
important
solamente
to
policial, ya
understand
lo
that this is
decíamos,
not
sino de
just a
nuestro buen
police
gobierno.
model, it's the
Aquí va
model of our
acompañado con
good
viviendas
government.
para nuestras compañeras
And they
mujeres,
provide
planos
housing for
SIVA
women.
cero,
We
el bono
have the zero
productivo
usury plan,
y
the
una
production
cantidad
bonus or
de
zero
centros de
hunger
salud y
plan, and we
hospitales que se
also
están
have
habilitando
health
en todo el
centers and
territorio nacional
hospitals being
para la
built throughout our
atención integral
national
de nuestras
territory to
compañeras
offer
mujeres. Y
comprehensive
en
care
nuestros
to our
ministerios,
women.
en
Also,
nuestra
within
Asamblea
our
Nacional,
ministries and
en
within
nuestros
our
poderes del
National
Estado, como
Assembly,
la Corte
within the
Suprema de
branches of
Justicia,
government,
como el
such as
Consejo
the
Supremo
Supreme
Electoral,
Court and the
están
Supreme
compañeras
Electoral
mujeres
Tribunal,
en
we have
50%
at
y
least
50%. No
50%
en vano,
women.
nuestro país
And
en este momento
it is
tiene
no
más
coincidence that right now our
está en uno de los
country
primeros
is
lugares a nivel mundial
ranked
en la presencia
very
de las
high
compañeras mujeres
internationally in terms
en
of gender
nuestros
equity and the placement
sistemas
of
de
women
gobierno
in
y sistemas de
systems of
compartir
government
con
and
nuestra
leadership
población. Dicho esto,
in our population.
vamos a hablar
So
muy
having said
brevemente
this, I would now like to
de
speak very
el
briefly
intento fallido de
about the
golpe de Estado
failed
que ocurrió en el año 2018.
attempted coup
Aquí es muy
d'etat in
importante decir
2018. It
que
is very
el artículo
important to
7
say
de
here
nuestra
that Article 7
Constitución
of our
Política
Constitution
establece claramente las funciones
established that
delegadas del
Nicaragua
poder soberano
is
y
a democratic
también
republic
que
and
nuestro gobierno
delegates
fue elegido
duties to the sovereign
democráticamente
power,
a
and this is
partir del sufragio
expressed
universal.
through the
Quisiera hacer
branches of
algunas
government and
referencias de cómo
universal
estaba la
suffrage.
seguridad
I would
ciudadana
just like to
cuando se dio
tell
el golpe de
you
Estado.
how
Teníamos
what
una
crime
tasa de 7
statistics
homicidios
were
por cada
before the
100.000
attempted coup
habitantes
d'etat. We had a
y
homicide rate of 7 per
el informe
100,000
que en ese
population.
momento todavía nosotros
And
aparecíamos como país en el Latino
in
Barómetro y en otros
2017, we
foros
were on Latino
internacionales y se nos
Barometro,
alababa
and in
nuestro modelo.
other
Y nosotros
international
éramos
fora, our
calificados como el
model
segundo
was
país con mayor
praised.
satisfacción de la
And we were
democracia,
also
con
ranked
mayor confianza y
number 2
aprobación
in
de nuestro
terms of
gobierno, con menos
satisfaction with our
preocupación de
democracy,
los ciudadanos
great
a
trust
ser
and
víctimas
approval
de
of our
delitos,
government,
con mejor
less
evaluación
concern about
en la
being
lucha
victims of
contra la
crime, and
corrupción
highest
y con una
evaluation in
mejor
terms of the
imagen
fight
de
against
progreso.
corruption,
El
and the
Foro
best image
Económico
of
Mundial, que ahora
progress. The World
Nicaragua
Economic
ya no
Forum
aparece allí, evaluó a
evaluated
Nicaragua como
Nicaragua
uno
as
de los
one of the
países más
safest
seguros
countries
relacionados al
in
tema de la
terms
delincuencia y el
of
robo.
crime
Nicaragua
and
ocupaba el
robbery.
primer lugar en
Nicaragua
América
was
como el
first
país
place
con
in
mejor
first place in the
ambiente para
Americas in
hacer
terms of having a
negocios
good
según
business
el
climate,
BID.
according to
Imagínense
the
ustedes.
Inter-American
Aquí tenemos
Development Bank.
algunas láminas
Imagine that.
de cómo
We have
estaba
a few
Nicaragua en
slides
primer
here
lugar
showing about how
sobre su forma
Nicaragua
de gobierno
ranked
para toda
first
la
in terms of its
población.
form of
La satisfacción con la
government to
democracia
serve the
aparecíamos en el
population. In
segundo
terms
lugar
of
en el
satisfaction with
2017.
democracy, we were in
La
second place in
evaluación de la democracia,
2017.
una
In
democracia
terms of
plena,
assessment of our democracy,
Nicaragua
full
estaba en segundo
democracy,
lugar
Nicaragua was
solamente
also in
detrás
second
de Uruguay.
place, just behind Uruguay.
Si miramos la
And if
aprobación de
we
nuestro
look
gobierno
at
a
government
nivel
approval
regional de toda América
statistics
Latina,
throughout
pues estaba en
Latin
primer lugar
America,
con un
we were again in first place
67% de
with
aprobación. Y
67%
la imagen
approval
de
rating.
progreso
And in terms of
también
the
era
image
la
of
mayor, con
progress,
un
we were also in first
58%
place with
con respecto a los
58%
demás países.
compared
La
to other
situación económica
countries. In
actual
terms of the
del
current
país en ese
economic
momento
situation of the country
estábamos
in
en el segundo lugar con
2017, we
25
were in
puntos.
second place
Es decir,
with
había una situación
25
económica
points. In
pujante.
other words, we had
Prácticamente
a
durante
thriving
5 o 6 años
economy, and for
creciendo con
5 or 6
una tasa
years,
del
we had
5%,
over
¿verdad?
or around
Gracias al modelo
5% growth.
de
So
diálogos y
this was
consenso que
a
teníamos
model
con el
of
sector
dialogue and
empresarial
consensus with
privado.
the
¿Qué
private
ocurrió a
business
partir
sector.
del 2018?
What happened beginning in 2018? There was an attempted coup. Practically was prepared this aggression against our good government, and they wanted to go after the peace of the population, against social peace, against our infrastructure, trying to undermine the legitimacy of our good government, which, as I said a few moments ago, was democratically elected. What they wanted to was to break the constitutional order. What was done? They tried to instill terror in our population, and these groups, they attempted against the safety of the democratic state, against our institutions, but most importantly, against the safety, the physical integrity of all Nicaraguans. Secondary factor, but no less important, that they affected the economic, social, and political stability in our country, causing a lot of human losses, not only government workers, but also citizens. Here we see how media platforms adverse to our government started to make up at a private university that they were saying that a student had been murdered. And from there, they unleashed, beginning on April 18th, by April 19th, we had our first victim, police officer who was murdered because our police were wearing their riot gear, and these delinquents, because we have to call them that because they were delinquents, they were armed with firearms, and they unleashed this through manipulation and twisting the information. They were able to play with the feelings and emotions of the people, creating terror from Managua to all different departments of the country. They spread fires, destruction, terror, and we can see in these images the protests and the ransacking of supermarkets, the setting on fire of establishments, vehicles, the murder of civilians who had nothing to do with the issues. What were the pretexts, the motivations? They were pretending to regulate social media. This is something that came from the outside. Millions and millions of messages through various social media platforms were sent to our country, and were able to confuse our population in such a way that our police, from being the best rated in our country and regionally in Latin America, we became genocidal, murderous police. All these messages manipulated our population. They made up, they already had tried before. They tried with the fires in a natural reserve that we had, and then also they did it again with the reforms to our social security institution. What were some of the manipulation factors? They used students. To us, our students are sacred. They said that we had killed students, which was false. And to this day, we can say proudly it was not proven on international level, or we received the IE, Human Rights Investigation Group from the OAS. They were not able to prove one single photograph or video of a police officer murdering or shooting against a student or against a citizen, a member of our population. But they played with the feelings and the emotions, using students and twisting the information. Later, they made out that the police had invaded the Managua Cathedral, the church, which is another very important factor for our population, which is eminently religious, our population, even though our evangelicals are now bigger than the Catholics. More than 98% of our population is highly religious. They used the army, because those images that you see there are images from a parade of our army. They said that the government had brought their tanks outside and our troops to repress our population, which logically later we were able to prove that that was never the case. Also, this is very sensitive. They used our indigenous population, saying that we were repressing our original peoples, our indigenous communities, our Mayagna population, our Mosquito population, our indigenous populations from Monimbo and Sutiaba in Leon, which was also not true. This psychological manipulation on our population and state employees, which were spread worldwide, was a bunch of lies, campaign orchestrated from nonprofit organizations controlled by the US government through the NED or other agencies that were financed with millions and millions of dollars to sustain this campaign against our good government and against our national police. These media actions were instigating. Imagine our police officers had to go out dressed as civilians to avoid aggressions. They also came to our police stations and to the residences of our families. There are residentials that are for police officers of dignified homes, San Miguel and other neighborhoods where delinquents came to offer police officers. They were offering money for police officers that were killed. There were more than 1,071 tranques, which were organized crime centers where they murdered people, violated women. They would steal, they would set cars on fire, they extorted, blackmail our population to freeze our country. They attacked our police stations. The one in Masaya was besieged. They were practically locked inside the station for 90 days in Jinotepe, in the Carazo department for 38 days, in Matagalpa, a little bit longer than 38 days, in Ceba for more than 30 days, in Nagarote, 14 days, Trinidad in Esteli, 12 days. Imagine in Nagarote, just to share one anecdote, a priest came with the delinquents to demand that our police give up their weapons. And we never used those weapons. Later on, the Diriamba police, the station was set on fire. The Matagalpa station was set on fire. They also set on fire vehicles of the police, the national police, while we were in our police stations. What did our good government do? They tried to establish a dialogue to resolve the situation. Meanwhile, our police officers were being killed. Imagine that on July 12th, we already had 22 police compañeros who had been killed. Where had you seen that 22 police officers are murdered in less than 3 months? 2 women police, without including the number of police who were injured, more than 600, 359 of them with firearms. Here we have compañeros who are blind, a female police woman. Her internal organs were destroyed. She cannot have children anymore. They kidnapped police officers. They set a police fire on a police officer on fire alive. These are the 22 police who were killed. Meanwhile, they were accusing us of killing our own police officers. Here you can see the weapons they were using, weapons grade, military grade. We were out there with pistols. Those were the weapons that they were using. In some of the delegations in Jinotepe, if I'm not mistaken, they also have RPK, which is a machine gun, a high caliber machine gun. What did the state do? Well, the state always focused on peaceful resolution dialogue, understanding one another. We had a consent model that was broken in 2018. It prorogued the reforms. We convoked national dialogue erroneously because we felt that the Catholic Episcopal group as mediators. They became party to protect the delinquents because in churches, the delinquents were finding safe haven and were keeping their weapons. We were able to prove this in the Delegation of Peace and Justice. I myself, at one point, I was working with Ministry of Exterior and the OAS investigators. And when we presented our evidence, they didn't want to look at it. They didn't want to look at the reality. They were already biased politically against our good government. And the responsibility of our Comandante Daniel, his prudence and moderation allowed our police force to prevent bloodshed, could regroup at police stations, and we did not allow ourselves to be provoked. Even though we were attacked, we had police officers who were killed, and we did nothing because we are obedient, because we are loyal to our population, and we were clear that sooner or later our population would understand what was happening. And here we can see what we did. It was the organized community through volunteer police force, which was not created in 2018. It was created in 1983. And that is the community itself organized as police with one unique identity, with the institutions of the state, which by themselves went to dissolve the tranques of the death, which caused so much tragedy and pain to our population. It was the citizens themselves who supported our national police to discredit all the false, the fake news, all the infamies that had been levied against our national police. When they gave us a strategic order, our population turns to the streets, and the organized community supports us to clean up and to start capturing the delinquents. Many of them, the majority, fled. This organizing system that we spoke earlier is what allowed our police force to identify itself with our community, to let them know that it was all an organized lie from the outside to attempt against our Nicaraguan state. This objective reality was that which allowed our community to conduct self-defense. This was so determining in our police community system, protection of families, people, and property, which the population would call us little blues, azulitos, applauding whenever we showed up. That is the reality with which we have. Lessons learned, the chain of command, hierarchy, obedience. Despite the provocations, we did not see it. We were not allowed to allow ourselves to be provoked. The unity and the spirit of the corps of our institution, which despite being young, 44 years old, we continue forward. The pride of being police officers. We're at more than 1,500 new police each year, and we are adhere to constitutional order that nobody can discredit. We have videos, we have images of the criminals. They video themselves killing our police, burning alive our police officers. That is the experience that we can tell you, and we are willing to answer your questions, compañeros and compañeras, all your questions. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much to both of these speakers. We have learned a great deal in a short amount of time, and many questions have resulted already from your presentations. Nan McCurdy and I will be taking turns posing some of these questions to you, and you both can answer, or you can decide which one of you will answer each question. I will take the first question, and before I start, I would just like to say that I personally feel very sorry for everything that the police, the national police, went through in 2018. It just sounds so horrible. And I know that it was very hard for you. And I want to thank the two of you and everyone in the National Police for your service to your country at that time. This morning I was reading an article in the Washington Post, and it was talking about the police in the United States. And it was saying that police here need to hire more women. And in the police forces in the United States that have more women, that the outcomes have been better than in other police forces. And I am, I guess, first of all, impressed that each of your local police areas, that you have both a man and a woman heading those forces, which is really remarkable. And I think I might have missed a percentage, so maybe you could repeat it again. Overall in Nicaragua, what percentage of the Nicaragua National Police are women?
Generally speaking, for the police, it's 32%, but in terms of the chiefs, we're about 48%, because at each departmental department and with the specialties and the support bodies, for example, the University of Police Sciences, there is a male and a female president. For the University of Medical Sciences of the Police, we have a female and a male director. And in the judicial services, we have a male and a female chief. So in terms of our chiefs, we have a higher level. It's pretty much about 47, 48%. It is important to point out, says Commissioner Solórzano, that all of the specialties of the National Police are also comprised of women. We have women who previously, for example, we did not see women in police intelligence, drug trafficking, or the DOE. Now we have full police companies of women, and this means that now more than 32% of our police force is female throughout the Nicaraguan National Police. The same is true of the departmental police departments. We are at 38% of women, because there are basic training courses that are comprised exclusively of women. We have been working, as Commissioner Vanegas said, every year we're taking in about 1,500 new recruits into the police, and more than 50% of these new recruits are women.
Next question. Does Nicaragua have a problem with gangs? And I would say here, especially compare this question with other countries. What kind of preventive strategies do you use to prevent youth crime?
Very well. In my presentation on the police model, I said that in Nicaragua, we do not have gangs, pandillas or maras to speak of. Thank God, we do not have a gang problem. This is due to the confluence of several factors. First of all, our good government has a strategy particularly targeting youth and adolescents. We have a full program in which the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Youth, we have a Ministry of Youth. We also have a Ministry of Sports, and the National Police has a Bureau of Youth Affairs. We have a center where we train young people, and we have youth officers at each one of the police stations to serve youth. We have a risk. We are the neighbors of our friends, our brothers and sisters in El Salvador, our brothers and sisters in Honduras who have these problems, but we work with early warnings to try to prevent this type of behavior from developing, which can unravel society. So what do? We train our students to launch businesses so that in their families and in their communities, they can be part of society, and it serves a triple purpose. First, we strengthen our culture. Second, we strengthen education. Third, our young people begin to contribute to the family economy with their businesses and also to the national economy. This is very important because a youth or an adolescent who has too much free or rather spends his time playing sports, engaged in cultural activity, working, does not have time to get involved in vagrancy, drug use, or criminal activity.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Sí, hay otra pregunta.
Okay,
I
momentito.
see there's another question.
Oh,
Just a second.
Ay, que yo creo que están traduciendo.
Barbara?
Nan, if you have one, go ahead because I
Okay, I'll go ahead.
okay.
This person says they're from New York City. The police in New York City are armed with sound cannons, drones, and military equipment. What type of equipment does the average Nicaraguan police officer have?
A typical police officer starts with a revolver or pistol, 9mm or a 38 caliber revolver, but not all of our police officers are armed. We work on surveillance and patrols through a patrol in a truck. That's what you call it in English, a truck, in which we have 7 police officers and only 2 of them have weapons, and they would have a gun, an AK, which is in the patrol vehicle. They don't carry it on their person. And when we respond to riots, we have muskets that fire what we call rubber bullets, plastic. So they are not lethal weapons. Most of our police officers do not go around with weapons. They go around with the public without weapons. It's only people who work on investigations, for example, or intelligence, who use firearms because they will confront drug traffickers, organized crime, and other more dangerous criminals. But most of our police officers, when we're working on patrols, etc., we do not carry firearms. The only thing that we carry, says Ligia, is our nightsticks. And in addition to this, we have chachas to ensure, or rather handcuffs to ensure the safety of an individual when there might be an altercation, we might be arresting someone, and also for our own safety as members of the National Police. I would also like to add, says Commissioner Vanegas, that our sector chiefs, men and women who are police officer in the neighborhood, who knows everybody in the community, does not use a firearm. What they have is a tablet in which they record data because they can record a criminal complaint from the neighborhood. And this is how you build a continuous relationship between the community and police. And you don't need a firearm for that to work in your neighborhood. And this is police, I think, believe that internationally this is called proximity police. You're always in your sector, in your community. You know what's going on there. And the sector chief, most of the sector chiefs are women now. They listen to the concerns of the population and not only bring in police problems, not only issues of safety. It has to do with public lighting, water supply, health issues, education problems. Then we channel these complaints or needs into the various institutions from the police sector. And Commissioner Martha said, I'm going to stand right now, and you can see she needs to
I'd like to
yes,
add
she's showing that
question
she
to that
has
one.
no weapons on her. Both police officers here are here in their normal police uniforms and police equipment, no
During
firearms.
the attempted coup I understand that most of the police who did have arms had rubber bullets. Is that the case?
Sí, sí,
Yes, it is.
originalmente,
Originally,
desde el primer momento,
from the very
nuestros policías y
beginning,
los de la
our police
Brigada
officers
Especial
and the
Antidisturbios
special
actuaban con
anti-riot
armas
police
que tienen balas de
use
goma, con escopetas que
rubber
tenían
bullets.
balas
So
de
they
goma.
had
Sin
muskets that
embargo,
fire
después tuvimos
rubber
la
bullets. But
necesidad
later we
de tener
observed a
policías
need
porque
to
habían
have police officers
francotiradores
because there
que
were
nos
snipers out
asesinaban a
there
nuestros
who were
policías.
murdering our
Nos
police
asesinaron en un día
officers.
10
They
policías
killed
en
police
una comunidad que
officers
se llama
in
Morrito,
one day
en el
in the town of
departamento de Río San
Morrito
Juan.
in
Iba
Rio San
una
Juan. There was a
manifestación, estaban
demonstration
nuestros
going through,
policías
and our
viendo
police
la
officers were
manifestación y los
watching the
mataron.
demonstration,
Inclusive
and they
mataron
got
a un
gunned down.
maestro
And they
de
also killed
secundaria y a una
a high
enfermera, si no
school
me equivoco.
teacher and a
Lo mataron
nurse,
10
if I'm not
policías de una
mistaken.
sola vez.
10
En
police
Silao,
officers
Paracas,
were
nos
killed.
emboscaron una
And one
patrulla policial y
operation,
nos
they
mataron
looked for
5
police
policías.
patrol in
Esto es en
another
el
case
Caribe Norte.
and
En
murdered
esta
them
ciudad
in
de
the North
Managua,
Caribbean
en
region.
este edificio que
In
estamos
here in
ahora,
Managua, in the building that we're in right now,
pasó una
a
turba de gente
a
y nos
mob
agarraron a
went by
pedradas, es decir,
and
nos
began
lanzaban
throwing rocks
piedras,
at
nos
us.
lanzaban objetos
And they
y
were
nosotros
throwing stuff at us,
simplemente
and we
observando
simply
porque la orden era
watched
no actuar.
because our order was to not respond
Barbara,
in kind.
are you ready? You're on mute.
Are you talking to me now?
Yes. Are you
Oh.
ready to ask a question? You were on mute.
Yes, I was waiting for the translation just ended. Okay, so the next question comes from two members of our audience who ask similar questions, so I'll put them together. What strategies do you use when policing persons who suffer from mental illness? And what services do the Nicaraguan police offer to people with mental health problems?
Bien, esta
Very
es una
well.
problemática
This
bien
is
compleja
a very complex
porque
issue
muchas veces las
because
familias no
often
quieren hacerse
families do
responsables
not want
de
to be
una persona que
responsible
tiene
for
problemas
someone
mentales.
who does have mental
Nosotros
health issues.
llegamos al
We
sitio,
come
tratamos
to
de
the
reducir
scene
a la
and
persona si está muy
try
violenta, si
to
no, solamente
calm
la
down the person
trasladamos
if they're very
cuando
violent, and if
percatamos que
not, we
tiene
just
problemas
transfer them when
mentales
we can
o si
see
nos
that they are
avisan con
suffering a
tiempo que
mental
tiene
health
problemas
crisis, or
mentales, lo
if
trasladamos.
we're told that
Nosotros
they
tenemos
do,
un
then we
hospital
transfer them. We have a
psiquiátrico especial,
psychiatric process,
¿verdad?
a hospital rather, a special
Para atender
hospital
personas con
for
problemas mentales, los
persons
trasladamos
with
y
mental
que
health
el
problems, and we transfer
especialista
them there.
dictamine
Then
cuál va a
a
ser el
specialist
tratamiento. Lo que
determines what the
nosotros
treatment
hacemos
will
es
be.
tratar de
What we
controlar,
try to do
de
is to
calmar la
control
situación
the
y trasladar
individual,
a esa
bring
persona
calm to the
hacia el hospital
situation, and
o al
transfer the
centro de
individual
salud
to
más
the hospital
cercano
or the
para que
closest
se le
health
dé
center
tratamiento.
so that they
Por
can
cuanto
be
nuestra
given
Policía
treatment.
Nacional
Therefore, our national police
que está habilitado es para brindar
is
primeros
equipped
auxilios,
to
porque nuestros
provide
policías reciben una
first
capacitación
aid.
para
We
poder
do
brindar
have
primeros
some
auxilios.
training to
En este
provide
caso,
first
los
aid, but
primeros
in this
auxilios
case,
muchas
the
veces
first
no
aid
funcionan
often
porque es
does
una
not
persona
work
que puede estar
because it is
agresiva
someone
y
who
lo que
may be
hacemos es
aggressive. So
controlarla
what we
y
do
tratar
is
de
to
trasladarla
control them,
al
try
hospital
to
donde va a
transfer
recibir
them
su
to the
atención.
hospital where they can receive proper
Francamente,
care.
son
Quite
casos muy
frankly,
pocos,
there are very
muy
few
pocos,
such
por
cases
cuanto hay aquí un
because
sistema de
here we
salud.
do have
En este año
a health
estamos
system, and
construyendo
this year we're
simultáneamente 4
building
hospitales
4 hospitals
de
at the
carácter
same time
nacional y centros de
throughout the
salud
country, as
donde
well
se
as
puede
several health
brindar una
centers
atención
in which
primaria
people
para
can
luego ser
receive primary
transferidos
health
al
care
hospital
and later be
especializado
referred
en
to
psiquiatría que se
specialized
encuentra ubicado aquí.
psychiatric hospitals, the one that's located here in Managua.
Okay, here's another question. We know that for a very small nation of about 6,500,000 people, you have nearly, I believe, nearly 200 women's police stations to deal with people who are trained to be able to support women in situations of violence. The question is, do you know if other nations have the high percentage of women's police stations that Nicaragua has?
Well,
I believe that to this day we don't know. We don't know of any country that has that number of special police stations to treat women specifically, especially with a dual purpose, not only of receiving the complaint once the crime has taken place, which is unfortunate. Our main objective is to prevent the crime from happening, which is why our women are equipped to be more sensitive to not re-victimize women, and they specialize on domestic violence and sexual violence and crimes against women. We believe that in the region, we don't believe that in the region there is a similar phenomenon as we have here in Nicaragua. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have visited all countries in the region and I have not found a similar experience to the one that we have at this moment in our country.
Gracias.
Okay, here is a question from Camila Escalante. To what would you attribute Nicaragua's relative success in combating drug smuggling and transnational crime?
Well, we believe that this is not only a national police success. I said it a few moments ago. This is a model of governance. This is a model of community integration. This model is what allows us for all the routes of drug cartels would evade our country, because we are clear that the organized crime, drug trafficking, drug cartels, the drug is produced in the south, it's consumed in the north, and we're a transit passage. That collaboration, that integration of our community is that which prevents drug trafficking cells to be established in Nicaragua and have clandestine cells here. We have an integral program for youth, for our adolescents, to prevent the consumption of drugs. I believe that basically that is the main success, the close relationship with our community. That relationship allows us to be informed directly from the community ahead of time the issues that they're facing. Therefore, we don't need to talk about other countries, because you probably know how what situations the other countries are in Central America, having to do with drug consumption, drug trafficking, and violence. The result is that Nicaragua is the least violent country. How can we demonstrate that? That proximity today, September 24th, 2023, our police is sanctioned. It is sanctioned by the U.S. government. Our primary chiefs are sanctioned. We continue to be discredited on the international level, but we continue to go to the neighborhood. We continue to have conversations and accompanying our population in their sports activities, cultural activities, in all their day-to-day activities. Today, they are celebrating national holidays. In Leon, there is a national party, and we're there. How can you explain that with a police that it's accused of being genocidal and murderous? There's no explanation when you look at the close relationship with our families and our communities, because they know that we belong to this family and this community. I'd like to add, it's important to point out, to let you know, with what General Commissioner Vanegas was saying, this community police relationship, this relationship with our families, and taking into account that our national police, we have our youth officers who are in charge, who have been hand to hand with our youth, we have the trust of mothers, of fathers, of families who come to the national police so that we can provide the help when their children, when they see that their children are at risk, there's a risk factor of drug consumption. And so that activity that we carry out of providing the proper care, special care to our youth, that has made the population trust us, and for there to be a contention wall against drugs and organized crime.
So here's a question about the 2018 coup attempt. The question is, has the reconciliation process worked? Have very many of the people who planned or participated in the coup attempted to change their minds and change their actions?
Well, here I would like to say, first of all, that there was a manipulation of the feelings and emotions of our population. When the population realized what was really happening, they completely changed 180 degrees their attitude towards our police. We had a dialogue. There was an amnesty law. All the people who were involved, who had been captured, were set free. Our population continues here. We're still having 6.5 million people in our country. Who left, who fled? Those who, despite being set free because of the amnesty or the pardon, persisted and continue to this day trying to destroy us. Those are the same who are over there in the US Congress asking for more sanctions against Nicaragua, asking for sanctions against our public servants. Our police was sanctioned, but we continue working. We continue purchasing uniforms, vehicles. We continue building police stations. We continue building women police stations. Therefore, the reconciliation was a reality. People who were confused are now, they now understand that really what our good government wanted was to continue development. Today we have peace, tranquility, security. Today, 5 years, in 2018, they destroyed our economy. You can see it on an international level. 5 years later, we are growing and growing more rapidly than other countries. Of course, the Nicaraguan economy is the smallest in the region, but it continues to grow. And we continue building hospitals, schools, roads, homes. We already have 97, 98% of electricity in our country. Drinking water, we bring progress to every community. Those pamphlets that our General Commissioner was talking about have been translated to original languages because we are in those communities as well. So I think that the reconciliation was a success. Our policy of reconciliation has been a success, and we continue to develop it because we know that this is a permanent process. And obviously, we can't continue to perceive that influence through social media that continues attacking us day to day, nationally and internationally. Social media, through social media, they continue trying to destroy this unity between the community and national police and our good government.
What opportunities have there been in international fora for the Nicaraguan National Police to testify about the events of 2018?
I could say that there are none because the OAS came here, an observer from the OAS, we spoke with them, deaf ears. Commission came from the High Commissioner of Human Rights, ACNUR, here, deaf ears. We showed you a presentation of the coup d'etat, and you saw how on the international level, on the World Economic Forum, the Latin Barometer, the IMF, all the institutions and international organizations rated Nicaragua, and then our national police, we were rated as excellent. We're an example to Asia, to the regional countries, Costa Rica, Salvador, Guatemala. But now you see on international media outlets, international organizations, Nicaragua does not appear, and our national police does not appear either. Therefore, we have not found an echo chamber objectively to analyze objectively, because if a massacre really did take place, really what we had was 190 people who died, of them 22 police officers, and more than 50 public officials from our town halls, teachers, nurses. Nobody wants to see that reality, but governments turn their back. They have focused on a political narrative, and we know why that is. We know why. Because our model, our example, imagine a country of 6.5 million people, which barely has an army and a police force of 17,000 police officers, has been declared a threat to the government of the United States, which has more than 324 million people and the most modern weapons in the world. How can we be a threat to the security of the United States? And logically, today, to this day, a unipolar world persists. Many countries, many governments, many organizations would rather close their eyes and their mouths and their ears so that they don't have to see the reality in Nicaragua.
¿Cuál es la política de la Policía Nacional?
What is the policy of the National Police
éxodo
regarding
de
the exodus
migrantes
of
que
migrants
vienen del sur?
who are coming from the south?
Déjame asegurar que lo tengo bien eso porque
Let me ensure that I have this right,
salió esta pregunta.
because this question
Que
came
hay
out.
migrantes que vienen
There
buscando,
are
me
migrants who
imagino,
are
ir a los estados,
looking to go,
vienen
I
del
imagine,
sur
to the United
y
States. They come
intentan
from the
pasar
south
por
and they
Nicaragua.
try to
¿Qué es
come
la
across
política
Nicaragua.
de
What is the policy of
Nicaragua?
Nicaragua? Well, it's very important to say that this is not an issue for the National Police. There is a Ministry of Governance. There is a National Directorate for Migration and Foreign Relations that deals with this. But we, at a certain point, and I don't know if I'm authorized to say this, but due to the pressure from the United States government, which has pressured all the countries in the region to contain illegal migration, we had a different attitude, but we believe that migration is not an issue of one country. It's an issue of the reality, the political, economic world situation. Right now, you see the Lampedusa in Italy, the situation with Northern Africa, and here it's the same. Therefore, our national police does not get involved in these issues. And when we do it with two perspectives. One, to protect the migrant, to protect his life so that he's not a victim of human trafficking, because we investigate the human traffickers and those who deal with people. Why? Because this habitually is identified only with women or with children, but here they are dealing with children, with boys, with men who are recruited to go join drug cartels. They're recruited to become mercenaries in other countries. That we combat as a national police because it is part of the organized crime which comes from drug cartels, the dealing of people, the migrant trafficking, and weapons trafficking. But the migrant, wherever they come, to us is a human being who needs dignified treatment, who has rights, and who has not committed any crime. Because to enter a country illegally is not a crime. It is something that administratively, it is our migration and foreign services matter. We collaborate with them, and we ensure that ensure their safety and that they have the proper integral care, because we have women who are pregnant, who have their children here, who give birth here. We make sure that they come here and that they go through our health system. Now, that's not the question, but I would like to talk about it. The Nicaraguan migrants who reach the United States and Mexico, they are returned. Every month they come back. They send planes from the United States each week. They bring migrants from Nicaragua. You know what we do? We wait for them with buses, with minivans at the airport. We transport them to their homes so that they get there with safety. And we give them a production package with food so that they can be in their homes. And they get the proper care. If they're sick, they receive medical attention. We ask how they are, and we inform their families. Because to us, it's very important. There was a case of a little girl. You may remember her last year, a little girl who was abandoned in Texas, and the border between Texas and Mexico. We did everything necessary in our country so that that little girl could come back to Nicaragua, because we are interested in protecting the life and the integrity of our families. We are clear that one family member who leaves and we don't know their destination, it's a sadness to the relatives that stay behind.
For this reason, we have that humanitarian approach to migration. We have a different perspective from the other countries of the region.
Wow, that's very touching. Okay, here is another question. Police forces in most Western countries have a reputation for corruption, institutional racism, and police brutality, which seem to be endemic to the police culture in these countries, including the United Kingdom and the United States. How has the Nicaraguan police managed to avoid falling into these pitfalls and to maintain internal and external integrity?
Very well. Our Nicaragua is multinational. We have Mayagna peoples, Miskito, Sumo, Rama. These are the original peoples of our nation who live in autonomous regions that we respect and we protect. Out of those minorities, there is a large number who are part of our national police, both men and women. They speak Spanish, they speak their native language, but they're part of our police force. Most of them are in the North Caribbean, the mining triangles, Ciuna, Rosita, Bonanza, Bilwi. The others are in Bluefields, Matagalpa, Jinotega, and the largest number of them, look at how ironic this is, are in the Special Police Operations Department of the National Police here in Managua, both men and women. We have a lot of women who are from our native peoples of Nicaragua. This is the characteristic of our police force, which is part of our principles that were founded in 1980s. No racism, no racial discrimination or discrimination over sex, gender, or religious belief, or of place of origin. This is part of the institutional policy of the National Police, and it is studied by everyone who comes into the police when they are at the Police Sciences University. It is a policy of our good government as well. Aside from that, so we could say that this phenomenon of racism or discrimination in Nicaragua has really been going down. In other words, it has been diminishing. It was never very significant. And I think you also spoke about corruption. In fact, all of police bodies, to some degree or other, are vulnerable to that phenomenon, given the influence of drug traffickers, drug peddlers. So we cannot say that we don't have this at all, but it is not significant. Our values and principles have prevailed, and I can tell you that I'm the Inspector General, and the office that I coordinate is the one in charge of ensuring the integrity and ethics of our national police. For this reason, our corruption rates are quite low compared to other countries in the region. May I? Yes, and as we said before, our police are undergoing continuous training. Every new recruit, from the time you come into the police academy, we get training and we continue to learn about our laws, Law 862, our rules of procedure, which is a disciplinary instrument that all of the commands of the National Police study in order to ensure that corruption rates are very low. So the continuing education that we receive on a daily basis, not only in terms of physical training, but also through discussions that we have and courses that every male and female police officer takes in order to ensure that our values and principles will be strengthened every day and every second of every day.
Barbara, I think our time is up.
I was thinking that also. We are a little bit past our time, and so we will end now, even though there are still some very good questions there, but we can continue this conversation and continue learning from one another. On behalf of Nicaragua Webinars and our host, Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition, I want to thank our speakers and our interpreters and our technical people, and most of all, the people who attended this and asked the good questions. So thank you to everyone. And again, I'll repeat that the recording will go to everyone who is registered within the next few days, and we will also post it on the website and on YouTube. And we hope also to include your PowerPoints as part of that. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye for now. Okay.
Gracias a ustedes por escucharme.
Gracias.